At this point of the training process, your dog should have a solid understanding of the verbal commands of each of the behaviors: sit, down, place, recall, and heel. HG Canine, we do not teach the stay command. Stay is implied. What I mean by that is when I tell my dog to sit, that means sit until you get your release cue. If I was to train the stay command, I would need to train it in all of the behaviors. Stay, and then stay and sit. Stay in down. Stay in place, right? We're not doing that. When I give a command, the dog should understand that you are not to move until you get the release cue. Up to this point, I'm sure you've noticed that after you pay your dog for a behavior, they get right up and they leave the behavior. How do we stop this from happening? We need to help them gain fluency in the 4 Ds of dog training: duration, distance, distraction, and delivery of reward. I'm going to walk you through each of the 4 Ds, what their purpose is, and how we implement them into training. Duration is simply that: time in position. If I give my dog the sit command and I want to walk over there and grab something without him moving, well, he needs to understand that he needs to stay in place, even with me creating distance between me and the dog. If I give my dog the sit command, he goes into position, and then there's a dog off in the distance, that is a distraction. We need to help our dog gain fluency within distraction and understand that whatever the distraction may be, we still need you to maintain position. Up to this point, we have been paying our dogs for a 1-to-1 ratio. Successfully completed command, payment. We have been paying them for each successful command. But we do not want our dogs to believe they are going to get paid every single time. They need to be able to hold position without receiving a reward immediately. The first 3 Ds, duration, distance, and distraction, are going to require us to implement corrections or aversives into our training regiment. Aversives are how we are going to show the clear difference between the dog's decisions. You stay in position, you get a treat. You remove yourself from position without the release cue, you get a correction. This process is how we begin to implement the decision-making process within our dogs and start to increase their impulse control. Now, what is a correction or an aversive in training? It could be anywhere from withholding of food or simply saying the word no, all the way to applying a leash pop on a training collar. The type of correction you use is going to depend on your dog and your dog's level of titration. We will get into that further into this lesson, what titration is and how you can decide which level of correction is appropriate for your dog. I'll also show you examples of different dogs we've had in this training program and the different titration levels they've each had, resulting in different levels of aversives or punishments or corrections that I decide to implement within their training regiment. No matter the aversive you decide to implement into your training schedule with your dog, you are still going to have to follow the correction sequence. When utilizing a training tool such as the prong collar or a slip lead, and you want to implement pops, the level of force you use within these pops also needs to be considered. When training the police dogs and working line dogs such as the high drive German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, I would typically have to apply a firmer correction. But when I work with a nice soft pit bull, if I utilize leash pops, oftentimes I can use very light pops to get my message across to that dog. It is vital that you choose the level of correction that is appropriate for your dog. If I give my dog the sit command, they go into position, and then they break position, I utilize the correction sequence, no, and repeat the command of sit. If they go back into the sit command and they do not break position again, that level of force was enough for your dog to decide to remain in position. When utilizing pops as an aversive in training, it is imperative that you start using lower force. We do not want to start yanking our dogs around. Most dogs do not need hard corrections. And if we are implementing hard corrections and they don't need it, the training is simply unfair and our dogs are not going to have a good time. So, start soft. My dog breaks position, no, sit. They go back into the sit. If they decide to break position right away, that means this correction was not forceful enough. Slowly increase force of correction until it's effective enough to keep your dog in place. So let's get more into detail with this, and how do we implement the correction sequence within our training for duration, distance, and distraction. This leaves us with two things to go over. How do we build each duration, distance, and distraction, and how do we implement corrections into our training sessions to help build duration, distance, and distraction. This chair is going to be my trusty dog for this exercise. I put my dog into a sit. No pun intended. All right. I put my dog into a sit. He breaks position. I do the correction sequence. No, sit. They go back into the sit. Give them 3 seconds and then repeat the command again and immediately pay. So what does that look like all together? Sit. The dog sits down and then breaks position. No, sit. Wait 3 seconds. Sit. Pay your dog. Why are we waiting the 3 seconds? We want to show the dog the clear difference between those repetitions. Sit and breaking position results in a correction. Sit and holding position receives payment. Dogs are result-driven creatures. A correction will decrease likelihood of a behavior happening again in the future. Payment for a behavior will increase likelihood of that behavior repeating in the future. So your dog is starting to understand that once he gets paid, he shouldn't bring his butt up. But that does not mean that just because he figured that out, he's going to sit there for a minute. We need to slowly build up duration over time. It's a common theme in the training program, right? Baby steps. So we need to build duration slowly and consistently. What does that look like? I give my dog the command. Sit. He goes into the sit. Good. Pay. We've been building good as a duration marker. This helps him understand that he needs to maintain position. Sit. Good. He stays in position. Sit. 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 At this point, the rate of payment is every 1 to 2 seconds. Free. Release your dog after a few payments and let them reset. This is the very beginning of this training process, so we do not want to keep these reps very long in holding this position. The sit position for a dog is engaging new muscles for them, and maintaining it makes them fatigue those muscles faster. It's not a very comfortable position. We need to help them build strength over time, so that way they're not breaking position out of exhaustion and just getting corrected over and over again. Build slowly. As your dog shows that they're starting to understand and gain fluency, start paying with longer gaps in between payment. Sit. Good. Maybe you wait 3 to 5 seconds. Sit. Sit. You can encourage them to continue maintaining the behavior using the duration. Good. Sit. Sit. Free. Slowly increasing the amount of time in between payments, building that duration from 3 to 5 seconds to 7 to 10 seconds, 13 to 15 seconds, 18 to 20 seconds, so on and so forth. How do we start building a distance between our dog without them following us? Up to this point, we have been drawing our dogs with us every single thing we've done. We've been using it for the recall, we use it for engagement, we use it for just about everything to keep them engaged with us. Now we need to show them the difference that when they are in a command, they need to maintain that. This right here is very difficult for a dog not to follow along. So the movements are going to start very slowly. Sit. Sit. So the movements are going to build a little by little. Sit. Okay. Sit. A little bit extra movement. sit, and so on and so forth. Distraction. That could be something as simple as he is sitting right here and I do this. That's a distraction. The door opens on the other side of the building. That's a distraction. I take a treat out of the pouch and I drop it on the ground over here in front of him. That's a massive distraction, especially early on in training. Starting really small and easier for the dog, the first distraction I might introduce may be a leg slap, right? We use a leg slap to call our dogs over to us. It's actually quite an intense distraction. So we want to make sure we're not getting down and being like, right? That is later on while you're building distraction. For now, you can just do something as simple as, or the leg slap, right? Keep it simple. So you put your dog into position. Sit. Good. Sit. If they break position, do the correction sequence and do the exact same distraction again. Sit. No. Sit. That shows them the clear difference of their decisions. If I break position, I get a correction. If I stay in position, I get paid. One of the most important parts of building duration, distance, and distraction is that when you are moving on to the next D, the previous Ds that you've been working on need to decrease in criteria as you work on the new one that you are introducing. What do I mean by this exactly? If I've gotten my dog to the point where he will maintain duration for 10 seconds in the sit position, I now want to introduce a little bit of distance. So I wouldn't make my dog stay in this position for 10 seconds. I would decrease that duration criteria. Sit, pay. Sit, pay your dog. Free, give them the release cue. We do not want the duration of these repetitions to be as long as they were when you were only working on duration. We need to decrease criteria of duration while we increase criteria of distance. So let's say we are moving on to the third D, distraction. My dog has met the two first milestones that I like them to meet. The first milestone being 10 seconds of duration. Then I start working on distance. The first milestone for my distance is the 6-foot mark. Once I get to this 6-foot mark, I start building the dog's duration back up to 10 seconds with me being at 6-foot distance. Criteria for duration and distance goes back down while I start to teach distraction and increase criteria for that one. So I'm no longer going to that 6-foot leash for 10 seconds. Now I'm going right back here and making it easy again, doing the leg slap and building that distraction like that. Slowly increasing criteria back up for duration and distraction. So after they start getting the understanding of distraction with these first basic steps, I might go, sit, go right back and pay, all the way to the point to where I'm at my next milestone. 6-foot distance, 10-second duration with a knee slap, and going back and paying. This is how I like to build duration, distance, and distraction over time. This does not end at the 6-foot mark, 10 seconds, and the leg slap. This is all up to your creativity and how far you want to advance your dog in this skill. The more you work on it and the more you advance them through each of these, the more these commands are going to be fluent in all types of environments. When bringing your dog into a new training environment, that is a form of distraction. That means duration, distance, and delivery of reward criteria need to go back down. Yes, also delivery of reward, because now we need to really reassure them that they are doing the right thing to help them understand and adjust to this new environment of distractions. So if you're no longer paying for each command, pay for each command. Make the duration shorter. Make the distance you're going from your dog shorter while you introduce them to this new environment of distractions and help them gain fluency in that environment. A very important note when it comes to the incorrect marker, no, and the timing in which we use it. Just like the terminal marker, the no marker's timing is crucial. A dog's short-term memory is averaging at 1.3 seconds. So we want to mark no within 1.3 seconds of them breaking their command. Let's use the place command to show you exactly what I mean by this. So if I have my dog on the place bed, I've given them the command, they understand what they are to do. Remain in place until they get the release cue. I'm across the room washing dishes. I'm sitting there doing my thing. Next thing I know, I feel my dog's wet nose run up against my leg. If I turn around and mark no for them breaking command, they are not putting breaking the command and the no marker together. What they are putting together is me marking no for them approaching me and sniffing my leg. I don't want to give my dog the idea that they can't come near me and interact with me. That's why it's so important that we utilize correct timing for our incorrect marker. The correct way to utilize the no marker when my dog breaks this command is to catch him within 1.3 seconds of him stepping off this bed. The closer you are to marking that exact moment, the more clear it is to your dog that that is what you are marking no, making the communication more clear and the training more understandable for him to pick up. Another very important note utilizing the incorrect marker is we need to have a nice, cool, calm, collected no. We don't want to yell it. We don't want to scream it. We don't want to snarl it at our dogs. We just need to keep it nice and simple. No, pop, repeat command. You don't need all that extra jazz, right? Keep it simple. Keep it nice, calm, and neutral. That's all your dog needs to understand. If we put emotion into it, we are only going to confuse our dogs, and we're going to give them mixed signals, and we're going to turn them off of the training. In the following videos of building duration, you're going to see me working with multiple dogs that require different levels of aversion. Finn, the poodle, requires leash pops. Milo, the pit bull mix, requires reapplication of pressure. Angel, the dachshund, only requires very light leash pressure, but mostly withholding of food. This will show you the true level of nuance in dog training and how you can customize your aversion and how you utilize it within training for your dog.